There was a moment last winter when I found myself sitting on the floor of my kitchen at 3 in the morning, my hand resting on the warm fur of my dog who had positioned himself next to me without being called, without any command, simply because he sensed something was wrong. I had been crying, one of those desperate cries that come from a place so deep we don't even know its name. And there he was, with his eyes fixed on mine, emanating a presence that transcended everything I thought I understood about companionship. In that instant, something ancient awakened inside me, a recognition that went far beyond the idea of a pet or a domesticated animal. It was as if in the midst of all my existential confusion, in the emptiness that modern life had carved into my chest, there was still something sacred pulsing, something that refused to be extinguished, and that something was manifesting through the silent, unwavering presence of that being we have reduced to the category of animal. If you have ever experienced a moment like this, if you have ever looked into the eyes of a dog and felt that there was something infinitely deeper happening there, something that could not be explained by biology or behavioral conditioning, then you already know what I am about to share with you. You already sensed, even if unconsciously, that dogs were never merely animals in the utilitarian sense we have given to this word. They are something much more ancient, much more essential to our survival, not as a species, but as beings capable of touching the sacred. And if you are listening to me now, feeling that terrible modern loneliness, that sensation that you live surrounded by people but profoundly disconnected from anything that truly matters, I want you to know that I understand exactly where you are, because I have been there too. And what I discovered about the true nature of dogs changed not only how I see them, but how I understand my own possibility of reconnecting with the sacred dimension of existence. Mircea Eliade spent his entire life studying how human beings, throughout all cultures and all eras, have experienced and understood the sacred. He discovered something that completely contradicts the narrative we have been taught to believe about ourselves as modern, rational, evolved beings. Eliade showed that archaic man, what he called Homo religiosus, lived in a completely different world from ours, not because the physical world was different, but because his way of perceiving and experiencing reality was fundamentally distinct. For archaic man, the world was not a collection of neutral objects and random events. Everything could become a hierophany, a manifestation of the sacred, a portal through which the transcendent revealed itself in the midst of ordinary reality. A stone was not just a stone, a tree was not merely a tree, and an animal, especially certain animals that occupied liminal positions between the human world and the wild world, were never just biological organisms. They were mediators, guardians, living symbols of forces and dimensions that modern man has convinced himself do not exist. And among all these beings that inhabited the threshold between worlds, dogs occupied, and still occupy, a unique and irreplaceable position. They were the only wild animals that chose to cross the boundary, that voluntarily abandoned their place in wild nature to establish an alliance with humans that goes far beyond any practical or utilitarian explanation. Think carefully about what this truly means. Every other domesticated animal was captured, confined, bred by force to serve human needs. Cows, chickens, pigs, even cats maintained their independence, their emotional distance, their sense of being another species that merely tolerates our presence. But dogs made a choice that no evolutionary biologist can fully explain from a purely adaptive perspective. 15, 20, perhaps 30,000 years ago, wolves began to approach human campfires, not just for food scraps, but for something deeper, something that involved recognition, alliance, a pact that went beyond survival. They gave up their freedom, their place in the pack hierarchy, their wild identity, to become something new, something that had never existed before, a being that lives between two worlds, that understands both animal language and human language, that can read our emotions with an accuracy that surpasses our own ability to understand each other. This was not domestication in the conventional sense. This was transformation, a metamorphosis that altered not only dogs but also us, because from that moment on, we stopped being merely hunters and gatherers who faced the world alone and became something more, beings accompanied by a presence that saw us not as masters or providers, but as worthy of absolute unconditional loyalty, something that borders on the sacred devotion that in all religious traditions is reserved only for the relationship between the human and the divine. When I began to study Eliade more deeply, trying to understand why I felt that inexplicable connection with my dog went far beyond affection or habit, I discovered something that made everything click into place. In practically all ancient traditions, in mythologies from every corner of the world, dogs appear not as domestic animals but as sacred guardians, as psychopomps, beings that guide souls between worlds, that protect thresholds, that can see what we cannot see. In Egyptian mythology, Anubis with his jackal or dog head was the guardian of the dead, the one who weighed hearts, who guided souls through the dangerous territory between life and death. In Greek mythology, Cerberus, the three-headed dog, guarded the gates of Hades, not to imprison the dead but to maintain cosmic order, to ensure that the boundaries between worlds were respected. In Celtic traditions, dogs were associated with healing gods and goddesses, with the ability to see spirits, with protection against malevolent forces that lurked in darkness. In Norse mythology, dogs accompanied warriors to Valhalla, and in Hindu tradition, dogs accompany Yama, the god of death, not as symbols of something sinister, but as necessary guides through the inevitable transitions of existence. This is not coincidence. This is not cultural projection of human needs. This is the recognition, preserved in the collective memory of humanity, that dogs occupy a sacred function, that they are natural mediators between the visible and invisible, between the profane world of daily routine and the sacred dimension that pulsates beneath the surface of things. Eliade taught us that sacred space is not defined by geography, but by the quality of presence, by the intensity with which the transcendent manifests in a given place. He called this the axis mundi, the center of the world, the point where communication between different levels of reality becomes possible. Every temple, every shrine, every sacred place in human history was an attempt to create or mark an axis mundi, a place where heaven and earth touched, where the sacred could break through into profane reality. But what Eliade perhaps did not fully explore, or what we have failed to understand in his work, is that certain beings also function as living axis mundi, as mobile points of connection between worlds. And dogs, in their unique capacity to be fully present, to exist completely in the here and now while simultaneously seeming to perceive dimensions we cannot access, embody this function in a way that no temple or ritual can replicate, because their sacredness is not constructed, it is intrinsic, it is who they are in their very essence. Watch a dog in a moment of stillness, and you will see something that we, as modern humans, have almost completely lost: the ability to be absolutely present. A dog does not ruminate about the past, does not project anxieties into the future, does not fragment his attention across a dozen digital screens and mental worries. When a dog is with you, he is completely with you, his entire being focused on that moment, on that connection, on that shared presence. This is not naivety or cognitive limitation. This is mastery of something we have forgotten, the capacity to inhabit time in a sacred way, what Eliade called sacred time in opposition to profane time. Profane time is linear, empty, homogeneous, the time of clocks and calendars and deadlines, the time that drains our energy and gives nothing back. Sacred time is cyclical, full, meaningful, the time of rituals and celebrations and moments when we feel that we are participating in something eternal. Dogs live perpetually in sacred time. Every walk is the first walk. Every meal is a celebration. Every reunion after an absence is experienced with the same intensity, as if you had returned from the dead. This is not because they lack memory, but because they understand something fundamental that we have forgotten, that each moment contains within itself the possibility of the sacred, that existence itself is the miracle, and that nothing else needs to be added for life to be complete and worthy of absolute devotion. You know what touches me most when I read your messages? It's realizing that we're not alone in this search. If you're listening to me now and feel that emptiness, that sensation that something important is missing in your life, I want you to know that I understand exactly what you're going through. There were moments when I also felt completely disconnected from the sacred, lost in the midst of a routine that seemed to suck all the magic out of existence. That's why I want to ask you a very direct question. What was the last moment you felt there was something greater than yourself present in your life? It could have been contemplating a sunset, listening to music, or simply in an instant of silence. If you feel comfortable, write in the comments, "I miss the sacred in my daily life," and briefly tell when that last moment was. Your story might be exactly what someone needs to read today to feel less alone in this journey. And I promise I'll read each comment with the care it deserves. The more I immersed myself in understanding this connection between dogs and the sacred through the lens Eliade gave us, the more I realized that what we call the loyalty of dogs is actually something much deeper and more mysterious. Loyalty is a human concept, a moral virtue that we praise because it goes against our natural tendency toward selfishness. But what dogs offer us is not loyalty in this sense. It is unconditional presence. It is the recognition that your existence, simply by existing, is enough to deserve their complete devotion. This goes against everything the modern world teaches us about relationships, about love, about our own worth. We have learned that we need to earn love, that we need to be productive, interesting, attractive, useful, that our value is conditional on what we can offer others. But a dog looks at you and sees something that goes beyond all of this. He sees your essence, you're being stripped of all social masks and performances, and what he sees there is worthy not only of acceptance, but of sacred devotion. This is a hierophany in the purest sense that Eliade gave to this term, a manifestation of the sacred in the most unexpected place in the relationship with a being we have been taught to consider inferior, less conscious, less significant than us. When Eliade spoke about the nostalgia for paradise, about the deep memory that all humans carry of a time when we lived in harmony with the cosmos, when we were not yet expelled from the sacred garden, he was describing something that we all feel, even if we cannot name it. There is within us an ancient memory, a sensation that something was lost, that we once knew how to live in a way that was more real, more connected, more alive than how we live now. Modern man, Eliade said, has desacralized the world, has transformed everything into objects and resources and neutral facts, and in doing so has exiled himself from the only source of real meaning and authentic vitality. But here is what is absolutely extraordinary. Dogs never underwent this desacralization. They never left the sacred garden. They continue to live in that primordial harmony that we lost. And when we connect authentically with a dog, when we truly allow ourselves to be present in that relationship, we are touching, even if briefly, that lost paradise. We are remembering, not intellectually but in our bodies and in our hearts, what it means to exist in sacred relationship with another being, what it means to live in a world where presence and devotion and absolute acceptance are not rare exceptions, but the fundamental fabric of reality. If you are still watching this video, if something in what I am saying is resonating in that deep place inside you that knows truths beyond words, then take a moment right now to show your appreciation by leaving a like. This small gesture helps this message reach other people who, like you, are seeking to rediscover the sacred dimension of existence that modern life has hidden from us. Let us continue together on this journey of understanding. Modern psychology and neuroscience are beginning to discover what ancient peoples always knew, that the relationship with dogs produces measurable changes in our brains and bodies that go far beyond simple emotional comfort. When we interact with dogs, our levels of oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding, trust, and love, increase dramatically. Our heart rate slows, our blood pressure decreases, our stress hormones diminish. But what is even more fascinating is that these same changes occur in the dogs, creating a feedback loop of connection and well-being that is almost unique in nature. We do not see this pattern of mutual neurochemical synchronization in relationships between humans and other animals. What this suggests is that the bond between humans and dogs has biological and perhaps even spiritual foundations that go far deeper than we imagined. We co-evolved not just physically but emotionally, not just behaviorally but perhaps even in terms of our capacity to access certain states of consciousness, certain qualities of presence that neither species can achieve as fully alone as we can together. Eliade discovered in his studies that initiation rites, the ceremonies through which young people passed from childhood to adulthood in traditional societies, always involved symbolic death and rebirth, a journey through darkness guided by elders and protected by sacred forces. The initiate had to die to their old self, had to face their deepest fears, had to learn to see the world in a new way. What Eliade perhaps did not fully explore is that in modern life, where formal initiation rites have almost completely disappeared, many people unconsciously seek initiatory experiences in their relationships with dogs. The death of a beloved dog, and anyone who has experienced this knows what I am talking about, is often one of the first real encounters with death that a young person experiences, the first time they must face the absolute finality of loss, The first time they understand that love and impermanence are inseparable, and the grief we feel is in fact an initiatory grief, a necessary passage through suffering that cracks open our heart and teaches us something essential about the nature of existence, about the price and the gift of loving fully in a world where everything is temporary. But there is something more, something that goes even deeper. Dogs do not just teach us about death and loss, they teach us about resurrection, about the possibility of beginning again, about the resilience of the heart that has been broken but refuses to close permanently. After the death of a deeply loved dog, many people swear they will never have another, that the pain is too great. But then, often when they least expect it, another dog appears in their life, and something miraculous happens. The heart that seemed permanently scarred opens again. Love flows again, presence and devotion become possible again. This is not betrayal of the memory of the one who died. This is honoring what they taught us. The lesson that love is not diminished by being given again. That the capacity to connect sacredly with another being is not a finite resource that can be exhausted, but a spring that the more we draw from it, the more abundantly it flows. In Eliade's cosmogony studies, in his exploration of how different cultures understand the creation of the world, he found a recurring pattern. The world is not created once and for all in a distant past, but must be constantly recreated, constantly renewed through ritual, through the remembrance of sacred origins. Without this constant renewal, the world grows old, tired, loses its sacred quality, and becomes profane, empty, meaningless. Modern man has lost this understanding. We no longer perform collective rituals of world renewal, but perhaps dogs perform this function for us individually. Every day, a dog wakes up and greets the world with absolute enthusiasm, as if existence itself was being created new in that moment. Every walk is an adventure. Every smell is a revelation. Every encounter is an opportunity for connection. They do not take existence for granted. They do not become jaded or cynical or bored with reality. They renew the world simply by being present in it with total engagement. And when we are with them, really with them, we participate in this renewal. We remember what it is like to see the world with fresh eyes, to feel the wind on our face as if for the first time, to recognize that the miracle is not something that must be added to life, but is the very fabric of life itself. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognizes that there's a different path, a deeper way to understand your own spiritual journey. I know what it's like to feel lost amid so much noise of the modern world, seeking answers that always seem to slip through your fingers. That's why I created this space, this refuge where we can explore together the ancient wisdom that still pulses alive in our hearts. When you subscribe to this channel, you're not just clicking a button, you're joining a community of people who, like you, feel that life has deeper layers waiting to be discovered. Here you'll find not just knowledge, but genuine embrace for your thirst for meaning. Subscribe now and be part of this journey of rediscovering the sacred in everyday life. Your soul deserves this gift. I want to share something that might seem strange, but that goes to the heart of why dogs are guardians of the sacred, in a way that nothing else in our modern world is. We live in an age of overwhelming information, but profound disconnection from wisdom. We have access to more knowledge than any previous generation. We can learn about any topic instantly. We can connect with people across the globe. But somehow we feel more lost, more confused, more uncertain about what truly matters than perhaps any people in history. We know so much and understand so little. And in the midst of all this noise, all this distraction, all this fragmentation of attention and purpose, dogs remain absolutely unchanged. They do not need information. They do not need to know about the world beyond their immediate experience. They need only one thing: authentic relationship, real presence, genuine connection with another being. And this singular focus, this utter simplicity of need and purpose, is in itself a teaching, a correction to our modern madness, a reminder that we have complicated something that was meant to be simple, that we have overlaid existence with so many layers of abstraction and anxiety, that we can no longer touch what is real. Eliade wrote extensively about how archaic peoples lived in what he called a mythical geography, where every place had meaning. Every location was either sacred or profane, center or periphery. Modern man has abolished this mythical geography, has made all space homogeneous, has convinced himself that one place is as good as another. But in doing so, we have lost something essential. the feeling of being grounded, of belonging somewhere, of having a place in the cosmos. Dogs, however, continue to understand sacred geography. Your home is not just a house to them. It is the center of the universe, the place that must be protected and cherished. Your presence is not just one option among many. It is the axis around which their world revolves. When you leave, disorder enters their world, and when you return, cosmos is restored. They do not need to travel to find meaning. They do not need to escape or seek novelty. They need only what traditional peoples always knew we needed: a center, a home, a sacred place where presence and love and belonging are not abstractions, but lived realities. There is a phenomenon that anyone who has loved a dog deeply has experienced, but perhaps has not understood in its full significance. In moments of real crisis, in times of profound grief or fear or despair, when human words fail and human comfort seems hollow, a dog will often do something extraordinary. They will simply come and sit next to you, press their body against yours and stay there in absolute stillness. They offer no advice, no platitudes, no attempts to fix or explain or minimize what you are feeling. They offer only presence, only the wordless communication of "I am here, you are not alone, your suffering matters." This is not trained behavior. This is something much deeper, an instinctive understanding that in the face of real suffering, what is needed is not words or solutions, but presence, sacred presence, that does not try to change what is, but simply bears witness to it. In religious traditions around the world, the highest forms of prayer and meditation are described in similar terms, as silent presence before the divine, as wordless communion that goes beyond all language. What if dogs are showing us in the most accessible way possible what this kind of sacred presence looks like, what it feels like to be loved by a consciousness that does not need us to be anything other than exactly what we are in this moment, suffering and all. As this reflection comes to a close, I want to return to where we began, to that moment in my kitchen when I sat crying in the darkness, and my dog came to me with a presence that felt like grace. I understand now what was happening in that moment in a way I could not have articulated then. I was experiencing a hierophany, a manifestation of the sacred in the midst of profane suffering. The sacred was not solving my problems or explaining my pain or making everything okay. The sacred was simply present, simply bearing witness, simply affirming that my existence, my suffering, my confused and broken humanity was worthy of absolute devotion from another conscious being. And in receiving that gift and allowing myself to be seen and accepted and loved in that vulnerable state, something in me began to heal. Not the surface wounds, but the deep existential wound that modern life inflicts on us. The wound of believing that we are alone, that we must earn love, that our worth is conditional on our performance and productivity. Eliade spent his life showing us that the sacred has not disappeared from the world. It has only been hidden by our refusal to see it. He gave us tools to recognize hierophanies, to identify the manifestations of transcendence that are always available if we have eyes to see and hearts to receive. But sometimes the most profound teachings come not from books or elaborate theories, but from simple experiences we have every day and take for granted. The wagging tail when you come home, the warm body pressed against yours on a cold night, the eyes that watch you with unwavering attention as if you were the most fascinating being in the universe. These are not cute behaviors of a dumb animal. These are sacred offerings, gifts from a guardian who remembers what we have forgotten, that life is precious, that relationship is holy, that presence is the greatest treasure we can offer or receive. Dogs were never animals in the sense we use that word to mean lesser, unconscious, irrelevant to our spiritual lives. They are and always have been guardians of the sacred, teachers of presence, embodiments of devotion, living reminders that the transcendent is not far away in some abstract heaven but is here, now, available in every moment we choose to truly see and truly be. In a world that is rapidly losing its connection to anything deeper than the surface, that is drowning in information but starving for meaning, that is more connected than ever technologically but more isolated than ever spiritually, dogs remain as they have always been, faithful guardians standing at the threshold, waiting patiently for us to recognize them, to honor them, to learn from them what it means to live in sacred relationship with existence itself. And perhaps that is their greatest gift. Not that they make our lives more comfortable or entertaining, but that they make our lives more real, more present, more alive to the sacred dimension that is always there, but that we have trained ourselves not to see. If we are willing to learn, if we are humble enough to accept teaching from beings we have been taught to consider beneath us, dogs can guide us back to the sacred garden we left so long ago, not by taking us anywhere new, but by showing us how to see where we already are with eyes that recognize the holy in the ordinary, the eternal in the temporary, the transcendent in the simple act of being fully, completely, absolutely present with another soul. I want to thank you for journeying with me through this exploration of something so profound yet so close to our everyday lives. If this has touched something real in you, if you feel called to deepen your understanding of how ancient wisdom can illuminate our modern struggles, I invite you to share this video with someone you know who might need to hear this message. The sacred spreads not through force but through recognition, through one person sharing with another what has awakened something true in their own heart. Until we meet again in the next exploration of Eliade's vision, may you walk with awareness, may you recognize the guardians that stand beside you, and may you never forget that you are surrounded by manifestations of the sacred, waiting only for your attention, your presence, your willingness to see what has always been there.